to learn how Walters and Wolf has implemented Lean in developing their own production system, while also learning how to continuously improve processes that are sustainable. The goals of my project within my internship was to successfully implement a Kanban system to improve process flow and minimize waste. So throughout my internship, I learned how to identify the 8 wastes, as you see over here on the poster, completed the 2-second Lean book and the 2-second Lean class, and also read and performed book distinctions on the following books: The Toyota Way, Elegant Solution, and The Machine That Changed the World. I was also able to train with the following departments: the sales, the fab team and drafting, the operations, and the shop and door production. So some concepts throughout my internship was the 5S, which involves the high level of organization and cleaning, and also the standard operating procedures and the standard work instruction sheets. So as you see in this SOP over here on the top right was a SOP that I made in the beginning of my internship with the help of Miguel, who showed me what a SOP was. And I was lucky enough for him to allow me to make an SOP for the 3D printer up in Shop A. And this Swiss over here is the Swiss that I was working on at the beginning of my project. Now the next overarching concept throughout my internship was Kaizen, which is the Japanese word for continuous improvement. And any form of improvement wouldn't be possible without the standardization occurring of processes. The next concept would be the push versus pull system. In a push system, products are made just in case there's a demand for them. In a pull system, the opposite occurs. Products are made driven by the demand for them. And this pull system is what's used at Walters and Wolf, whether it be the unit production, the door production, whatever it may be, it's driven by the customer demand for that from each project. Now a Kanban. Kanban is an inventory management system based on the demand of materials that are used in production, which is also a pull system. The goal of the Kanban is to minimize the work in progress so that only the inventory on hand is used in production. This also allows parts on hand to be sufficient until the next order of parts arrives. And some of the few reasons that a Kanban is beneficial is that excess inventory leads to waste, more parts on hand leads to greater loss of shop space, and an increased risk of defective materials. And wasted motion also occurs by having to move parts around to gain access to other materials. Now for my project, in the beginning, I had to observe and identify a problem area within the door department. As I was observing, I noticed there wasn't a set inventory management system for various parts that are used in door production, such as plate nuts or the corner block, which you see in the picture here. This is a single corner block in the first picture on the left, and for the picture on the right, you'll see a joinery sample where the corner block is assembled ready for the next step of door assembly. And for my project, I chose to only focus on the corner block. Now, what makes my Kanban system for my project unique compared to other Kanban systems is that fabrication was needed on the part prior to door assembly. When it was ordered and came into the shop, it wasn't ready right away to be used in production. An extra step was needed. As a result of this, 2 different Kanban systems were needed to make this Kanban work. And as you see here in the first picture are 2 corner blocks side to side, a little before and after of the robot fabrication process when it comes into the shop and when it's ready to be used. As you see in the picture on the right is Miguel, who's in charge of the robot fabrication process, standing next to the machine while the robot fabrication process is occurring. To prepare to implement these 2 Kanban systems, I have to find inventory areas in the shop, as you see in the top picture, top right, the prefab inventory area and the post-fab inventory area on the bottom. And also map out the material flow, as you see in this picture on the bottom. Now for my first Kanban system, the door department pulls from the post-fab inventory for the door assembly, at which point the Kanban triggers the robot fabrication process. Miguel then pulls from the prefab inventory and produces the fabricated parts to replenish the door assembly. This next process, which was triggered by that first Kanban, was the robot fabrication, of which Miguel pulls from the prefab inventory in the mezzanine, at which point the Kanban there would trigger the purchasing to procure more raw parts from the outside vendor when the reorder point is met. And as a result of these two Kanban systems, just to reiterate, 2 Kanban cards were necessary. So here you'll see the 2 Kanban cards, the prefab and reorder Kanban card and the inventory replenishment Kanban card. Now, as you take a look at these Kanban cards, you'll see they have some basic information relevant to each inventory area, such as the max inventory stored there, the reorder quantity, the reorder point in that inventory area, or the replenishment point, the description of the part that the Kanban is being used for, and most importantly, the QR code here in the prefab and reorder Kanban card that triggers the reordering of the raw material. And as you see here, this is just a simple diagram showing the Kanban systems and what they're initiated by. So in the first one on the top, you see the material handler pulls corner blocks from the post-fab inventory to be used in door production. And he repeats this until the replenishment point is met within the inventory. At this point, the inventory replenishment card triggers the robot fabrication process, which takes us to our next Kanban system. Miguel, with robot fabrication, pulls the corner blocks from the prefab inventory, performs the robot fabrication process on them, at which point the corner blocks would be taken to the post-fab inventory. Now he repeats these first 3 steps until the reorder point is met, at which point the prefab and reorder Kanban card is triggered to procure more raw parts from the outside vendor. Now, while we were going through this process of creating the Kanban system, Joseph was able to help me out and create a switch showing the general process of creating a Kanban system, which for anyone interested will be able to access on the Walters and Wolf portal. To go along with that switch, we also put together a simple Kanban quantity calculator, which would help for anyone wanting to create a Kanban system to populate the values within the Kanban card. And as you see here, here are some pictures showing the improvements and additions made to each of the inventory areas to allow for the Kanban system to function. So if you see in these, the very bottom picture shows the stenciling that was labeling the prefab inventory area. And then if you look in the picture on the very left, if you look closely above that box is a little sleeve with the Kanban card, which also contains instructions of where to place the Kanban card when the order is in process and when the order is received in the shop, as you see here. And then also for the post-fab inventory area, something similar occurred where we had a Kanban card with the Kanban sleeve and instructions of where to place the Kanban card within the inventory. And as you see here on the picture on the far right, the post-fab inventory area, post-fab inventory was labeled with the levels of the corner blocks within the inventory with the white marking showing the replenishment point within the bin and also the reorder point above that 5th level. Now for some possible improvements to the system. In the future, a Kanban system could be implemented for other parts that are used in door assembly, such as the plate nuts or the bolts, and also in other areas within Walters and Wolf where it's found to be applicable. Another improvement with the Kanban system that I did would be to move the prefab inventory area potentially somewhere within or closer to the door department, as right now between the 2 Kanban systems, there's some excess motion occurring between the prefab and post-fab inventory areas. Now for my takeaways from this internship. So the first one would be that things may not go how you wanted them to. So there were some times throughout the project where I envisioned something occurring a certain way, and it necessarily didn't happen like that. And what that showed me is that in life, things aren't always going to happen the way you pictured them happening or you wanted them to happen. And as a result of this, you have to be adaptable and moldable to the situation to find the solution to the problem at that point. And my next one was a quote from Mark Twain: "Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection." And this quote really stuck with me because when you were implementing something at first, it might not be perfect, but mistakes need to be made to improve, which ties into the culture of continuous improvement. And I also thought something that relates to this quote is that the age-old adage, slow and steady wins the race. If you have slow but continuous improvements, that's much better than having varying periods of large improvements. And my last one is something that I'm sure all of you have heard countless times before, is teamwork makes the dream work. Is something that I saw from the first day of my internship here in the shop, is that everyone is contributing to a common goal in their own way, whether it be the PMs on a job taking care of the field installation, or whether it be the people in the shop assembling a unit or cleaning up the shop. Everyone has their own way of contributing to the common goal of continuous improvement. And one person can only do so much, but everyone together can accomplish so much more. Any questions?
So is this the first Kanban system that you've created so far?
Yeah, this was the only one, the first one that I worked on throughout my project, correct.
And do you, because one of the things that gets tricky with the Kanban systems is trying to understand exactly how much, of buffer you need between things. So it looks like you've made like a little spreadsheet to kind of calculate that, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, you would input the lead time, for example, and then it, set in that little column for the lead time to allow 2 weeks for the buffer. So then you just add that to your lead time.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's great. Because that's sometimes the hardest part, is figuring out how much material you need to stock to not run out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I noticed one of your Kanban cards had a QR code and one of them didn't.
Yeah, I can go back to that slide. Yeah, so the QR code, so the material handler that would be interacting with that inventory area would scan the QR code on their phone, which would just trigger the email to be sent to purchasing with the specific quantity and the part information.
And the one on the right that doesn't have one, you don't need that for that?
Yeah, so then that's just for the final inventory area. So then the way that I pictured this with the two systems occurring is that there would be kind of like an inventory area, and then there would be where the boxes are stored, since it's the work in progress. So I thought it would be easier to track it at the beginning of the system where the boxes are, because then the boxes are the area that would be depleted, because the inventory in the post-app inventory, it would never be fully depleted. It would just reach a certain level that would trigger the whole Kanban.
Okay, cool. That's great.
It's more of a physical thing between the door department and Miguel with the robot, is the way I see it.
Yeah.
So Chris, do we cut these, or we buy them cut? Which way is it?
Well, the inventory we have now is the ones that we had in stock, and we'd cut them up. So they were stock lengths before. That's the boxes you see them in. Heather can probably speak more to this, but there is a inventory where we're going to purchase these cut. We settled on a price and a tolerance a few 2-3 weeks ago, or whatever it was. Heather tracked that down, and so there's an order based around that, and that's actually the quantity. Heather worked with Shayan on this, and Joseph, and all of us to see what the minimums were and where our reorder point would be, to make sure that we don't run out in consideration of the lead time. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if they'll be shipped to us in a similar type cardboard boxes, or if they'll be in something different when they come in pieces. I'm assuming it'll be boxes similar to what we have.
Yeah, they'll be shipped to us in box quantities of 250 pieces per box.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool.
I don't have any questions for Cheyenne, but I know that this was a really good case of seeking the truth on something that we take for granted for as long as I've ever worked here as being so simple as a corner block, right? And it's a very good learning experience to apply lean concepts to, because when the internship first started out and him and Joseph and I sat down trying to pick an area or somewhere to go, it was almost as if, you know, it seemed so easy at that time that, heck, you could probably put a Kanban system for all the miscellaneous stuff, backup plates, bolts, you know, and then as we dug into a little bit, it was, no, we better just tackle one thing because limited time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is weeks go by fast, and once you get into one thing, one little part a little bit, you're like, okay, this is going to be kind of a nail biter just to get this done. And he did a really excellent job with this. It's stayed on it, worked with everybody. It was just a wonderful process to see somebody applied lean concepts to it.
Yeah, we're in a Kaizen for metal inventory at the doors, and I didn't realize how difficult it was to set up a Kanban system because there's so many variables that'll affect. You know, we have a bunch of extrusions the team's working with, and you got the lead times to get the material back, and you know, you got the pulling and the takt time of the doors and everything you got to take in consideration. I didn't realize it would be that difficult to have an accurate Kanban system, especially when you got different lead times on different extrusions. I think our team's doing really well on it, but it's taken a lot more time than I anticipated. We learned quite a bit about it too.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll caution, you know, is that the Kanban cards themselves, you know, the ones that Shayan here are very nice and very organized. It's got all the right information on there as far as what a Kanban consists of. And I know that we have a couple of Kanban areas for packaging and things in both shops that we use and have been using for a couple of years. It worked great. But as we move forward in this process and implement Kanban systems, we should probably settle on a standard format, a standard system, so that we don't have different types of Kanbans and different methods and look different and different information on them. So this is a good learning experience and something that we can build upon, even with just this one part that Cheyenne works so hard on.
Hey, Chris, do we have a list of places we're using Kanban cards right now that we could revisit, or is it just kind of sporadic?
No, it isn't. We have, there's only one person in the shop that is doing Kanban cards right now, and that's Mike Rosenblum.
Okay.
For materials. So he has several that we use at shop A and B. So you could get with him and he could show them as well. And they've worked really well for us for a long time now.
Yeah, this card that he's showing right here is similar to what we have going so far with the QR code. So yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, LA has one that Heather was in the group with when they did the metal for the mock-ups, and they have a Kanban system on that too. So that was another one, but that's in LA.
Yeah, we looked at that in our group and kind of changed it a little bit, but ours is different from LA's right now. It looks more like what you have right here in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Cheyenne duplicated or got these off of ours, Travis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Heather helped out with that.
It's a great project. I think that's just a really good thing to tackle. And, you know, you're learning some things, but we're learning things too, because it's kind of new for us. So I think it's a good. Of
course, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad that this worked out in the middle of this COVID situation. It would have been really easy for companies just to say, we're not doing internships right now. And we were able to do the full program and still comply with all the virus prevention plan in the shop, and didn't really impact any of our futures. And it's just very, very nice to see that we still got to complete it.
Yeah.
Shayan, did you get that QR code from our card? Because Dexter kind of introduced us to that, and it was
from us, Travis.
What's that?
We made it for him. We printed it for Shayan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that whole process of doing the QR code and how that turned out is a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it wasn't that hard to figure out. So actually, the QR code, Heather wanted me to update the subject line in the email generated by the QR code. So I did a little digging through, and I found out the website that was used for the QR code. It was called like Simple QR or something. The website was, where you can just select the data type for the QR code, and it could be anything from like an email to a video or whatever it may be, and you would just edit it or generate another QR code through that process.
Nice.
All right. Great job, Shayan. Really proud of you. You did an awesome job this summer.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was
Good
a
job,
great
Shayan.
experience.
Good job, Shayan.
Shayan.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice job.
Good job.
All
Awesome.
right. Have a great day, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.